Hello, this is Tony Hiller from realclimatescience.com. H.L. Mencken said, "The whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed and hence clamorous to be led to safety by an endless series of hobgoblins, most of them imaginary." He wrote that about 100 years ago. Then in 1989, the United Nations predicted disaster if global warming was not checked by the year 2000. They said it would become irreversible after that year. And now, 33 years later, the United Nations says we are very, very close to irreversible changes of climate. It was very thoughtful of them to grant the Earth a decades-long reprieve from global warming. Once again, this reminds me of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, with Sir Lancelot running towards the castle and never getting any closer. If we look past all of the nonsensical propaganda, we can see what the story is actually about. It's about oil firms reporting astronomical profits. The United Nations and other governmental bodies want people's money. The United Nations is not actually doing anything to slow the growth of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. They've been making climate agreements for 3 decades, which have done nothing to slow CO2 growth. In fact, the annual rate of growth of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now is double what it was 3 decades ago. The usage of coal, oil, and natural gas has been skyrocketing, while wind and solar have made almost no progress. Over the past 20 years, the use of gas, oil, and coal around the world has been growing 5 times faster than the growth of wind and solar. If you look at what Joe Biden is doing, you can see exactly what's going on. He wants to transfer money from the oil companies into the pockets of the government, which means that oil companies will raise their prices, further burdening the poor and middle class. 14 years ago, Barack Obama explained how this works.
And climate change is a great example. When I was asked earlier about the issue of coal, under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Even, regardless of what I say about whether coal is good or bad, because I'm capping greenhouse gases, coal-powered plants, natural gas, you name it, whatever the plants were, whatever the industry was, they would have to retrofit their operations. That will cost money. They will pass that money on to consumers.
Let's listen to his last few words again.
That will cost money. They will pass that money on to consumers.
What he was actually saying is that they will pass the cost on to consumers. This is just one more scam to transfer money from the pockets of the poor and middle class into the pockets of politicians in Washington, D.C. And they're trying to do this by scaring the public into believing that if they don't give up their money and give up their freedom, the planet is going to die sometime really soon. Progressive, useful idiots have been falling for the same scam decade after decade. If they haven't figured it out by now, it would appear they are incapable of learning. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on this Ponzi scheme for the past 14 years. You can visit him, Kyrie, Caesar, Toki, and Upla on the web at realclimatescience.com.